in the two provinces of KwaZulu-Natal and Gauteng is gradually but firmly returning to normality. Overnight, to the last 3 hours, no new incidences were reported in Gauteng. Therefore, the incidences remained at 58 since the violence. Additional 6 deaths were reported, and cumulative, the deaths have now become 32 in Gauteng. 137 additional arrests were made, and then the cumulative arrests are 862 in Gauteng. And South African National Defence Force deployment supporting the SAPS and Metro Police remains in Gauteng in the potential hotspots. And I must also clarify that there are deployments across the country because we don't want to find people who have been instigating the violence taking advantage of the other provinces. So the deployments are also in other provinces. In KwaZulu-Natal, overnight reported cases 1,488. Additional 89 deaths were reported. Cumulative number of deaths in KwaZulu-Natal, it's 180. An additional 214 arrests were made, which makes the cumulative arrest total to 1,692. And law enforcement agencies continue to closely monitor the situation in that province, which is stable but fairly tense in some areas. Furthermore, community structures in the identified areas have been meeting with the SAPS officials on a daily basis to assess the situation and go through plans for the day to protect their communities. We want to also address matters of ammunition, explosives, and hazardous materials that have been discovered. Several crime scenes related to the discovery of ammunition, explosives, and hazardous materials had to be attended to in line with the established protocol that dictates that the SAPS explosive unit determine the safety of officers before the officers may conduct a seizure of such materials. This caused a delay in the transportation of boxes of 500 live ammunition rounds that were discovered after law enforcement officers dispersed a large group of looters during the evening of 14th July 2021 in Mobeni, which is the area covering Leicester, Grimsby, and South Coast Road Triangle. Other recorded recoveries of ammunition in KwaZulu-Natal are as follows. On the 14th of July, 2 suspects aged 16 and 23 were arrested at Mobeni after they were found in possession of unlicensed firearm and 4,000 rounds of ammunition. The suspects were charged for possession of an illegal firearm, possession of rounds of ammunition, and possession of suspected stolen material. On the 15th of July, on Leicester Road in Mobeni, 1,050 cartridge boxes were found abandoned. On the same day, on Leicester Road, near the Testic factory, 900 boxed cartridges were found abandoned. A number of people were also found trying to siphon fuel from underground tanks at a petroleum service station in Pinetown in Durban. And hazardous items, which were targeted by looters, have proved to be related to the high number of fatalities, during which 7 multiple bodies were discovered at a macro store yesterday morning in Pietermaritzburg in KwaZulu-Natal. On the work that we have been noticing of recoveries of stolen goods, recovery operations of stolen items are underway as the police continue to receive tip-offs from concerned residents about those who were involved in the looting of shopping malls and stores. Law enforcement officers on the ground have received strict instructions to adhere to the legal principles governing search and seizure. We are grateful to the majority law-abiding citizens for the scores of stolen property that law enforcement officers are recovering daily. The NetJoins would like to remind social media users not to share and distribute messages inciting violence and calling for certain areas to be shut down. Anyone distributing these messages will face criminal charges of inciting violence. For example, during the early hours of this morning, the police in Gauteng's West Rand arrested a community leader allegedly responsible for the recording and distribution of a voice note calling for public violence in the area. The voice note was distributed among the community members yesterday on the 15th of July 2021. Reopening of the major economic corridors in line with government's commitment to ensure that major economic corridors and routes which are used to transport supplies from KwaZulu-Natal to various parts of the country are opened. We wish to confirm the reopening of both the N2 and the N3 highways and the transportation of key foodstuffs, medical supplies, and fuel to all parts of the country has commenced, and therefore the reports of food shortages and fuel will be abated. SANRAL is repairing the damaged parts of the highway in Moy River and have removed barriers on the stretch of the N3, but the traffic is flowing along the N3. Government has also engaged key role players in economic cluster to find ways of rebuilding the economy, the factories that have been damaged, reopen businesses and minimize the loss of jobs. We are working on the immediate plan for ensuring economic recovery and restoring the confidence of our people, our industries, and our investors. The Department of Trade and Industry and Competition has set up an email address which is ioc@thedtic.gov.za, where companies can report potential, imminent, and actual looting taking place at their areas of or establishments, so that it can be rerouted to the net joints or ProfJoc as soon as possible. In conclusion, we want to reiterate the following. Let's stay true to the spirit of our Constitution, and let's remember the legacy of our country's heroes in shaping the Constitution. That government will not hesitate to arrest, prosecute those who perpetrate unlawful actions, and will ensure that they face the full might of the law. And appreciate the continued effort of all South Africans to protect their country and to rebuild their country. And we want to congratulate the national group, the 35 plus, the people of Let's Do Coffee, for exceeding 1 million registrations for the vaccination just in 24 hours of reopening. And we want to confirm that some provinces have also commenced vaccinating the 35 plus group. That is the national group we remain very proud of. We thank you. Yesterday there were questions that were sent earlier, so that we could then consolidate and allow time for more questions to be asked. And majority of the questions were asking the same thing, so we consolidated those that were related, and therefore the number is reduced. So we'll start with those questions, and then we'll take the hands, and then we'll take a few from the WhatsApp groups, because then we would have taken 3 rounds of questions. The first question was, please provide information on the arrest of the alleged instigator. Where and when and how was the person arrested? Has the person appeared in court yet? If so, where and when? And please provide information on what happened in court, whether the court has been postponed, bail, charges, and who's the alleged instigator. And can the Presidency or NPA please provide us with the charge sheet? Has any other alleged instigators been arrested? And when and where will they appear in court, and who are they? As I've indicated yesterday, we cannot announce the name of the person who has been arrested, because that person has not yet been charged or appeared before the court of law. It's only when that person has been charged and appeared in the court of law that the name will be available, because that person will have appeared in court. Secondly, the charge sheet, you'll get it in court when the prosecution does their part. And the other related questions that are being asked of when and how, we cannot explain those details, because it will jeopardize the further investigations that are underway for the arrest of the remaining instigators. The second question is, or the other question of when will they appear? When they appear, we will announce that they are appearing, so that South Africans can go and see for themselves or watch the court proceedings. And members of the media, I'm sure they will be interested when that court appearance takes place. They will be able to follow. But we cannot, before then, we cannot announce any other thing in that detail. And we're pleading that that question, if it comes again, we be allowed not to answer it until such person or such persons have appeared in court. The second question was, this morning the President said intelligence services and police have identified a number of instigators. So is the number now higher than 12? Why was it possible for instigation on political grounds not better preempted as a risk to national security? before last Wednesday. The number of instigators, the police are still chasing the 11, but they are investigating further number if it's possible, and that whether the number has gone higher, it will be confirmed when the police have finalized their own investigations. And on Tuesday, the ministers for state security and the minister of police clarified their speed at which they responded when they became aware of the instigation on the matter. The other question was, we understand one of the alleged instigators of the violence has been arrested and more to come. Will the list include the Zuma twins as well as people like media personality Ngizwe Mkhunu, who were quite open with their incitement? Again, we will not comment because it will jeopardize the police investigations. The fourth question, the individuals that's not part of the 12, was the individual arrested in the West Rand not part of the 12? How was this person tracked and arrested? Which departments are leading this investigation? The person who has been arrested has not yet been charged, and when that person has been charged, you will know the details that relates to them. In addition, I cannot confirm or comment on whether the arrested alleged perpetrator is part of the 12 names. Which evidence and proof does government have to show that there was instigation? Again, if we comment on that question, it will jeopardize the investigation. But all South Africans can realize that this thing was planned, it was well executed. There are live rounds of ammunition that are being found, there are explosives that are being found, which shows a coordination. And if you were following social media, those things were being posted that this will happen, and it happened. But we cannot give you the other evidence that we have that the police will use in their cases and further investigations. Does the government consider the situation as fully stabilized now? Yes, it is fully stabilized. That's the reason why the major routes of the N3 and N1 and N2 have been reopened. That's why the fuel supply, food supplies, and medical supplies are moving, both from the ports and every part around KZN and also into Gauteng. Another question is, police have said that only 2,500 SANDF members have been deployed, but the defense minister has spoken about 25,000 members. What is the real number? So that we don't confuse ourselves. On Tuesday, when we came here, the initial plan was to deploy 2,500 because the soldiers were supposed to guard the national key points only. But because the situation on the ground changed, there was a need to increase the number, and the number was increased to 25,000 under the command of the Commander-in-Chief of the Republic, His Excellency President Matamela Cyril Ramaphosa. That's the number the Minister of Defense has announced. The other question is, where is the government planning to secure funding to support the deployment, and whether government view this as domestic terrorism? We have not viewed this as domestic terrorism. We have viewed this as an attempt on economic sabotage and political instigation, and which is backed by criminality. And the budget for deployment of the soldiers has to be found in line with the disaster management state that we are in, and the government will prioritize the safety and stability of the Republic and make sure the South African citizens feel comfortable and secure in their own homes, in their own country, at their places of work. How many police officers have been arrested or found with goods, looted goods? Is 2, and I'm not going to give further details on them until they are charged. In 2015, government came up with new legislation which was meant to help prosecute those who did damage to infrastructure in public protest. The Criminal Matters Amendment Act of 2015 was meant to ensure that there are stricter conditions for granting of bail in respect of essential infrastructure-related offences. It was also meant to ensure stricter sentences. The 2015 amendment means that anyone who intentionally tampers with, damages, or destroys essential infrastructure, or colludes with or assists another person to do that can be jailed for up to 30 years. Are any of those arrested going to face the charges in line of this legislation? It will be determined on a case-by-case basis and on the balance of the evidence that is at hand for the police and from the police to the prosecuting agency. We want to also extend to South Africans the comfort that you can be rest assured that our military has the capability to defend the sovereignty and integrity of this country, whether we're threatened internally or externally. When they're needed internally, they will deploy and get the situation calmly into stability in supporting our South African police services. Within 48 hours, they've gotten the situation fully under control to show the capability that we have within our military and our country, that our country is safe and we cannot be threatened. Lastly, I'd like to announce before we take questions that the President will give will give the address tonight, a family meeting at 8:30, so that we can all be waiting for the Commander-in-Chief and the President of the Republic to speak. Over to you, Butwile.
Thank you very much, Minister, for the status update of what's happening in the country. The country is stabilizing. So the situation is under control. Minister will then invite a set of questions. Firstly, we'll start with those who are inside the premises. You identify yourself and also the media house that you come from. Yes, sir.
Good afternoon, Minister. My name is from News 24. I just want to understand something. You speak about not having to disclose some of the information as it's still being investigated. Do we know at what stage are these investigations fastly developing, which includes some of the instigators? Because we are seeing, like today, one person has been apprehended who's allegedly been involved in some of this instigation. And also, do we know when the post-mortem reports will be released? Because today, during the Portfolio Committee of Police, the National Police Commissioner said that it would be released once the situation has stabilized. And of course, now you've said that the situation is coming to order and it's fastly stabilizing. And also there's been quite a great concern around, yes, situation is coming down, but the deaths also. There's been quite great concern around the death toll increasing as well. Can you assure us that the police are fastly going on the ground to ensure that there isn't any disruptions occurring, like racial tensions that we've witnessed brewing in places like Phoenix in KwaZulu-Natal? Thank you.
Thank you. Another hand. Yes, sir. Wait for the mic, for the sound. Thank you very much. On it.
Hi, Minister. This is Nico Mhlaba from Newsroom Africa. I just have 3 questions. The first question is, what makes government so sure that this is over, that we are not going to see any more of these incidents? So what informs that view? The second question, how widespread are these alleged instigators? Are they in one province? Are they in 2 provinces? My last question, how crucial has social media platforms been in terms of investigating and actually arresting the people who have been arrested? Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Any other hand? Thank you. Minister, you may respond to this before we go to the WhatsApp group.
Thank you for the questions. First question was, at what stage are we going to report to have the additional instigators arrested? Pule, is that the
question was, at what stage are these investigations?
Or at what stage are the investigations?
Yes.
The investigations are at a very advanced stage. Anything can happen between now and over the weekend. And that's the assurance that the police have given, to say they are very advanced and they They are just tying the loose ends. You know, they have to dot the I's and cross the T's. That's where it is. And postmortem reports, even when we say the situation has stabilized, remember the police are still preoccupied with getting, we don't know whether some bodies are lying somewhere we haven't found. So they still have to gather all that and make sure they've cleared what we call the crime scene. And then the postmortem reports will come in. Stability we are referring to the country going back to normal, but the police will have to do what they call a mop-up job after everything has been done. So that's the type of stability, to say everything is stable, is when they are done with their mop-up to make sure that they don't miss anything. We don't want a situation wherein a week or so down the line, some bodies are discovered lying somewhere. But what we know is that there is 115 murders, and the other one, I think, is 65 inquests that they are already working on. And the death toll, you are assuming that the deaths are related to racial tensions, and it's not necessarily true. Some of the deaths have happened at the looting sites. Some of the deaths have happened when explosive detonated because hazardous materials were in the warehouses that were looted. Some of the deaths happened in other places which is not related to racial tensions. But the leadership of both the governing party, community leaders, and government, they have been in phonics and traditional leadership to deal with whatever could be deemed as racial tensions. And we can say safely so that now the situation has stabilized in that area. And they have been videos circulating from yesterday and today where the communities are interacting with each other. You'll recall that adjacent to Phoenix, there is an informal settlement, and the relations have gone back to normal. People are going back shopping. They've been cleaning the towns together. So the racial tensions, we can say, they have been relatively dealt with sufficiently for the community to go back to normal operations. And what makes us sure that this is over is because the government knows that who are the instigators, and they are tracking them. They are going to deal with them decisively. To say that an attempt will not be made again, I cannot say. But if that attempt is made, they will meet the full might of the law. We have now been aware that it's not all protests that are protests for constitutional rights like provided for in our democracy. There's protests that want to destabilize our country, and we will not allow that. In terms of whether instigators, whether they are spread in one province, whether in one province or spread across the country, I cannot confirm that. It will jeopardize the investigations. And whether social media has played a part, we can't say social media has not played a part, but in terms of investigations, that work is being done. But we are saying those who are in the social media space, instigating violence or calling for violence, including calling for shutdown of this, shutdown of that, and banning of this and banning of that, or looting of this or looting of that, they will be arrested and dealt with in line with the provisions of the law. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Minister. We will now take the questions on the WhatsApp line. Tagalani, if you can go for the first batch of 5 questions.
Thank you. And the first question that we have is from Kale Cohen from News 24. And the question is, Minister, setting up reporting measures for the potential looting and ongoing looting amid early signs of the situation coming, signals that government expects violence and looting to break out again. And what is the minister's view on this, and should the country prepare for further unrest? And the second question, it's from Gaugelo from UFM, and the question is, we have seen a commotion of ex-ministers, other public office bearers, as well as leaders of the ANC and its alliance partners addressing large crowds in the name of quelling the looting. Where does this leave the COVID-19 regulations, particularly the part that bars the convening of political gatherings? Is that part automatically lifted? And if not, how was the tripartite alliance allowed to go ground addressing the crowds? And the third question from Alan Sikwane from Business Day. The railway line from Gauteng to Durban remains closed. Now, when will the state make this line secure enough to run trains and move cargo to and from Durban Harbour? And is there an estimate of the value of the loss of imports and exports due to the closures of Durban and Richards Bay? And the fourth question is from Marvin Adams, who is a freelance journalist. And the question is, what are government's response to free Jacob Zuma's demands that they want him to be freed in the next 14 days? And the fifth question, it's from Spelele Dludla from Business Report. And the question is, why has the economic cluster ministers not briefed us as to their assessment of the damage and the after effect of the crisis? Thanks.
Thank you very much. Minister, this is the batch. I think from there we'll just take the last one and we'll be closed.
Thank you. Should the country prepare for further unrest? You cannot stand on this platform and say there won't be further unrest. You can stand and say, if further unrest happen, the state machinery is ready to deal with that decisively. And also appreciate the rise in the community structures that have come through to partner with the state for their own security. As South Africans, we have started to take back the power of our own lives, and we work with our government to secure ourselves and our country and our property. And that makes us more ready, that we don't only have law enforcement agencies, but we also have the community that is aware and that is vigilant to attempts to cause damage into this country. And therefore, that goes a long way to say, if there are further attempts of this nature, they will be dealt with decisively and quickly. And there's a question around large crowds that are gathering in the name of dealing with the violence. Maybe the members of the media missed the amendment that was done by the Minister of Cocta, Dr. Nkosazana Dlamini Zuma, to the regulations to allow gatherings of up to 50 persons for addressing the emergency situations that we're under. So there is no violation. The regulations were amended to allow not only members of the ruling party, community leaders, other political parties, traditional leaders, and so forth to come on board to address the situation that is prevailing, because communities needed to be spoken to. The other question was on the railway line between Johannesburg and KZN remaining closed. And when will that reopen, and also the estimation of the cost for the loss in the ports. One, on the railway line, the military, because that's a national key point, continue to work to make sure that railway line is reopened. I'm sure when we give the next update, we'll clarify when that railway line will be open for operation to move goods between the harbours and inland. And the estimation of the losses in both, that's the question related to economic cluster ministers and estimation of losses. Until the situation is fully operational, we will not have a full appreciation of the losses. So the economic cluster ministers will come and do a briefing when that assessment is done, and they will come and announce the measures that will be done to get the country back. As they've indicated, the statement was out this earlier today about the interventions that are being made by both the economic cluster ministers and industry to make sure that the country gets back to normal and operates economically. And in terms of the demands to free former President Jacob Zuma within 24 hours, within 14 days, there is a constitution in this country, and there are laws in this country that provides for those who have been arrested how they are treated. The Minister of Justice has clarified that former President Jacob Zuma will qualify for parole within 3 months and 3 weeks, and that he qualifies for medical parole if he applies with any time that he chooses to apply. That is the position of government. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Minister. With your kind permission, Minister, I'm just taking the very last batch, and that will bring us to the end. I can see there is a hand first from our colleague again. Wait for a mic.
Minister Pule, once again from News 24. I just wanted to ask a question. What does this say of government's response? Has government learned a lesson about whether next time when the country is faced with such a threat that they respond swiftly? Because if you listen to the committee that was held earlier into policing, the National Police Commissioner does say that they were actually caught within a setback. Most of the SAPS members were deployed for COVID-19 related matters, and there was a counter-attack from some of these instigators, hence the delayed response. Does this set a precedent that next time when such incitement has been said by members of any political party or any society, that it be taken serious? And secondly, I'm going to shoot my shot again, Minister. Out of the 12 individuals, 3 have been out of the 12 individuals or instigators, 3 have been prioritized by the Directorate of Priority Crime Investigation and the Division of Detective Services, and their affidavits have been obtained. They're currently talking to the National Prosecuting Authority, and the Chief Magistrate in Durban is on standby to issue warrants of arrest. Are you aware about this, and can you confirm this information? Thank you.
I think we should not do running commentary on issues that are happening. The Minister answered the issue of the suspects and also gave that we should allow the process that is taking place. So it will be unfair for us to expect the Minister to give a running commentary on that one. No, but thank you.
Minister Khumbudzo Ntshavheni again from Newsroom Africa. Is government worried about a possible infiltration of ISS if such events such as these ones over the past week unfold in front of our eyes? Does this not show or prove how vulnerable the country is in terms of any incidents? We know that Mozambique is currently, under siege. Should we not be worried as a country if such things are able to unfold for entire week? Where does that position us in terms of our intelligence, but also in terms of our capability of dealing with such issues? Thank you.
No, thank you very much, and thank you, colleagues, for the questions. Minister, with your kind permission, let's take the last batch of WhatsApp questions so that we answer them. Tagalani?
Thank you. The question that I have here, it's only, I only have one question from Spelele from Business Report. And the question is, please explain the process embarked upon the Operation Kipari Seat, as announced by Minister of Police. We see a lot of looted goods being recovered, especially in Alexandra. Where are the goods being taken to, and what will happen to them after? Thanks.
Thank you very much. That was the last batch of questions. It appears there is a hand that is burning. I hope it will be short.
There's something that has just come in right now. There are reports that Tulani Dlomo has handed himself over to police. Is government aware of this? Can you verify? Has he really officially handed himself over from the knowledge that is at your disposal? Thank you.
Thank you very much. As I've indicated, that certain things are happening as the Minister is briefing. So, but we will leave that to the Minister. Minister, that was the last batch of questions. Can answer.
Thank you. I'll take the question on lessons learned and the possible infiltration of the State Security Agency as one. yes, there are lessons learned, and we are cleaning up on those lessons that are learned. I cannot say whether state security agency has been infiltrated or not, but wherever there are lessons, we have learned those lessons, and we are cleaning up to make sure that we are combat ready. And that will assure you that the speed at which we'll respond if another attempt is made will be very fast. And the 3 investigations that you allege that the magistrate is on standby and what do you call them? And affidavits have been obtained, or they are waiting to get the warrants of arrest. That's what you are literally saying. I've indicated that the police have said anything it's imminent between now and over this weekend. They are dotting the I's and crossing the T's. I can't say that is what has happened now. I'm not at liberty to say that, but the police have committed themselves to say they will make arrest of the instigators, and the president has given them marching orders that it should be done quick enough so that these instigators do not continue to cause damage to the country. And that also relates to the allegation you are making of Mr. Thulani Dlomo handing himself over. I will not be aware of that. If he has handed himself over, I cannot confirm that. It has to be confirmed by the police when the due process of policing has been done. And on Operation Kipi Receipt, there are protocols on search and seizure, as we have indicated in the statement, and those protocols indicate how police and law enforcement agencies must conduct search and seizures, and also those goods are stored for evidence, and they'll be used as exhibits in the various cases that have to be prosecuted. It's depending whether the National Director of Public Prosecutions has determined that those cases must be prosecuted, or those cases the people must be given warnings, and as long as the goods have been recovered. Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for your time. We need to get back to work. Thank you.
This brings us to the end of this press briefing, and thank you very much. And as the Minister have indicated, the President will be speaking to the nation at 8:30 tonight. Thank you very much.